give us a brief history of what brought you to Yavapai College.
Well, I served my time north of the 40th parallel in places like Portland, Oregon, Missoula, Montana, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Philadelphia, so I was bound and determined to move to Arizona for obvious reasons. And at the time I was at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, coaching soccer when the opening appeared, and I was fortunate to gain an interview and get the position. And my first athletic director who hired me was Mrs. Lynn Merritt, and I have her to thank for being here.
And so, if I understand correctly, you're the only coach that Yavapai College has ever had for the soccer program?
Only head coach. This is my 20th season at Yavapai College. I've been the only head coach for the soccer program, and we've only had one assistant coach during that time period. That's my buddy Hugh Bell.
Is he still the assistant coach now?
He's going to be entering his 17th season. So I was the Lone Ranger for the first 3 seasons of the program until Hugh Bell came on board.
And how did Yavapai College do those first 3 seasons?
Not too bad. We won a national championship in our 39th game. The very first recruiting class won a national title, and those guys were tremendous people and tremendous players. They had a personality second to none of any team I've ever had, and they laid the foundation for the program and established the history and tradition of the program right away. So in a sense, they kind of screwed it up for everybody else because the standards are so high. And I have those players to thank from that very first team that won a national championship.
Oh wow! So there's 6 national championships, 16 top 4 national finishes, and 19 consecutive conference titles.
And that's in 19 years. We've been fortunate enough to win 19 consecutive Arizona Conference championships, and that's very difficult because you have 9 other teams in our league that kind of gang up on us, and they share their scouting reports, and so we've been fortunate to win the league every year in our existence. And when you get to the national tournament, it involves 8 teams, and we've been fortunate enough to be in the national tournament 17 of the past 18 years, and we've been a Final Four team, finishing in the top 4 in the country 16 out of those 17 years, and been actually in the national championship game 12 times. So we've won 6 national titles, and we were runner-up 6 times as well.
That's incredible. That is incredible. What does it take, for someone like me who doesn't have a real firm grasp on soccer? What does it take to get to the nationals, to get to the championship?
Well, it's a combination of a lot of things. First and foremost, recruiting the right individuals, not only good players but good people, and we're interested in players that are very sincere about getting an education using soccer as a means. In my opinion, there's a direct correlation between performance in a classroom and performance on the field. If you have players with the desire and determination to succeed in life, they're going to battle for you on the field. And this past season in 2007 was a perfect example of that. Here we are down to Georgia Perimeter College in a national championship game 3-2 with just a couple minutes to go. And most people would throw in the towel at that point, but our players were bound and determined to get that tying goal, and ultimately they got the winner and won the championship in just a couple minutes.
Wow, that's really neat. You said about recruiting players, and I heard, I don't know if this is just a rumor, but that you when you're recruiting players, you were telling them that Yavapai meant something was Native American for like winning soccer or something.
Well, in the early days, quite simply, when I was down in Phoenix, starting the initial recruiting process, a lot of individuals, both parents and players alike, really did not hear of Yavapai College. You got to consider this is in the late '80s when the program started, and Yavapai was a two-lane road coming to the college at the time, and a lot of people did not hear of our nice school here. So. As a result, I used every ploy possible to gain the interest of the individuals, and I told them, because they mispronounced the name so many times, now it's kind of a household name, but at the time they called it Yavapai and all sorts of things, so basically, no offense to the Native Americans, but I said Yavapai was a Native American term that meant winning soccer, and they bought it.
Oh my goodness. So what do you look for when you're recruiting players?
Well, somebody that has a dynamic on-the-field personality, if I'm going to go to a soccer game and watch 22 players run up and down the field, who stands out, who's dynamic? It's not necessarily the goal scorer or the goalkeeper, but somebody who stands out and somebody that has a dynamic personality on the field. But there's more to it than that. Like I mentioned previously, somebody that is very serious about using soccer as a means to get an education, and then also somebody with a personality. If I get to get on a bus ride for 5 hours to Yuma, then I'd like to talk about world events or something to that effect. And it's got to have, I want players to have a personality and that have a mind that can, that we can converse with and, have a good time along the way down.
Oh, that's great. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit just to when Yavapai College first started the soccer program. Give us kind of a feel of, did we have a lot of things, or was it a pretty just small, fledgling program? Like obviously when it first started it was, but what was it like to coach the very first team?
Well, I was fortunate by the college to start a year before our very first game, and it allowed me to bring in the right type of individuals, do a lot of scouting, do a lot of recruiting. And when I was at the 4-year university level, I had an idea what it took to win a national championship, because I was back at the national tournament actually recruiting players. And so I had an idea exactly what it took to not only to succeed here in Arizona and win our league, but also to compete at a national level. And it was interesting, that very first team, because I would tell them on many occasions, no, we're doing it this way. This is the way it's done around here. And they're going, Coach, what are you talking about? We're the first team. So we established the foundation early and set the high standards early. And the players were bound and determined to succeed. And that very first recruiting class to win a national championship, that's storybook in itself.
Wow, that's neat. What about Yavapai College, like the campus and stuff? What was here when in 1980? I mean, that was before I was born, but was it still a pretty small campus? Did you guys play on which soccer field?
Well, the community itself was a one-horse town. Now it's up to 4 horses, but. The campus, I remember when I first walked in, it was around 6 buildings. Now it's up to 26 buildings. So it was a very attractive place. In the early days, I used to take a certain route when I brought parents and players onto the campus, because I was kind of embarrassed about certain areas. Now it doesn't matter what direction or where you go, because it's a beautiful campus here in Prescott. Now, the very first game was played outside of Arizona. We played St. Louis Forest Park. They were ranked number 3 in the country, and we won our very first game 4-3 against the number 3 team in the country. Our very first home game was played on guaranteed win night. We played Victor Valley Community College of California and won 13-0. And what was interesting about that game, we even had 8 cheerleaders at the game. We had the music department brought a little Dixieland band there. Aww. Anything to do to get people to come to the game. And of course, our players were understood about public relations, and all throughout the preseason, they went around the community passing out pocket schedules and stimulating interest about our program. So we had a very good crowd at our game, and the very next night we won 6-0. And I don't have post-game speeches. If a player runs up and down the field for 90 minutes, the last thing they want to hear is a coach after the game assess the game. So the crowd comes right onto the field and say hi to the players and so forth. And I remember on the second night of the second home game, a person came up to me, Coach, you only won 6-0. What happened? So obviously we had to educate the community about the sport, and we have a loyal following, to say the least, both at Ken Lindley Field, where we played the majority of our home games in Prescott, as well as the Prescott Valley Amphitheater, which is our secondary home.
Okay, that's neat. So the community then, even back then, after it started gaining popularity and stuff, I know for sure, seen games. I've had people ask me since, I go here, when are games and stuff. So you feel there's a lot of community support behind the soccer program?
Well, there's no question, and our players are involved in the community in so many ways and fashions. the basic stuff like doing free clinics for the youngsters in town, both in Prescott Valley as well as the Verde Valley. Also helping out with the youth soccer tournaments and doing a wide variety of things. I go around to the public service groups and talk about the players and talk about the program as well. And we're out there in the community, and I feel that when the fans come to the game, they have a real attachment towards not only the program but the players individually. So that's why it's important to bring in good people as well as good players to portray a positive image in the program and as well as on campus.
Oh, that's really cool. So, just a couple, last questions. Does the Philly stand for Philadelphia? On your webpage for Yavapai College, it's Mike Philly Pantalione. Is that for Philadelphia, or what is that little nickname there?
Well, I attended the University of Montana from Philadelphia. I left Philadelphia when I was 17 and went to the University of Montana School of Journalism and I also played on the intercollegiate baseball team. While they had a team, they no longer have baseball at the University of Montana. And one of my teammates nicknamed me Philly because I was always running around with the Philadelphia Phillies baseball cap, and that nickname stood. And in a sense, it has stood also for soccer from the standpoint of some of the great players of the world. Have one-word names like Pele and so forth. I'm not a great player. I'm proud to say I was an amateur soccer player, not a professional. But the name Philly is kind of coined around the soccer circles in a sense because nobody knows how to pronounce my last name anyway. It's a lot easier.
True. And I also heard another thing that you recycle halftime speeches every 2 years since it's just a 2-year program.
Well, that's the beauty of a junior college. We have odd year speeches and even year speeches, and there's some yelling done on more occasion than the other. But the beauty of junior college soccer coaching is the players don't get tired of me and I don't get tired of them. They're in and out of here in 2 years. By the third year, I get a feeling the players would have all the answers.
They would know. Oh, that's great. So what would you tell someone who is trying to succeed in soccer for, an upcoming player who's, wants to do soccer? What would you tell them to do?
Well, tomorrow's promised to no one, and to give it your best each and every day, whether it's on the field or off the field. In addition to that, the sport of soccer is promised to no one in a sense. You never know when it's going to be your last game. You could have a career-ending injury and so forth. That's why education is very important. That's why we strongly emphasize it's a dual commitment when players show up here. They got to have a sincere interest in school as well as soccer, and it's got to be a dual commitment. They can't just rely on soccer for them to succeed in life. Now, some of our alumni obviously have made a living playing soccer. We have numerous players that played professionally. We've had a few players that played in the World Cup recently in Germany in 2006. Obviously that's a small percentage. What we're all about is moving our players on to big-time universities, and hopefully they'll acquire their degrees and eventually make more money than me, which should be pretty easy.
That's great. Who's played professionally?
Just currently, for example, in Major League Soccer, which is the top professional league in the United States, Alan Gordon plays for the Los Angeles Galaxy, and he also has another former Rough Rider, Michael Randolph, that plays for the Los Angeles Galaxy. Avery John plays for the New England Revolution. And Roger Espinoza, who was just a recent graduate and moved on to Ohio State University, just got picked up by the Kansas City Wizards, and he's in their lineup right now as a rookie. So we've had numerous players. I'm just talking about current players, but we've had numerous alumni that play at various levels professionally across the country and throughout the world.
That's really, really interesting. And they started here at Yavapai College. They're kind of there. Oh,
well,
wow.
This is where they kind of learned, the discipline and the organization that it takes to succeed at a high level. We don't have too many rules, but one rule is you better be on time.
That's good. I had some soccer players in my classes last semester because I took all morning classes. and they would, I can remember them coming into class. They'd look so tired, from practice and stuff. So what kind of a practice would you run them through usually?
Well, we like to train as much as possible on the field. At the same time, we'll make use of the resources in the area, like the weight room, the swimming pool, the mountains, the trails, and so forth. But really, the work is done on the field. And in order to get as maximum amount of work in as possible, we have 60, 70 soccer balls at a practice session to eliminate the dead time. Our practices are 2 hours or less because they have other responsibility, like going to class, homework. They also have a social life. There's traveling schedules involved and so forth. So our training sessions are 2 hours or less. And in order for us to have a quality training session for 2 hours or less, it's my job to be organized, have goals and objectives for that session, but also have the proper equipment at their disposal in order to eliminate the dead time. That's why we have soccer balls all over the place and they're flying all around. One thing for sure, you don't want to be a goalkeeper on this team because it's a lot of work.
Oh, that's so neat. One final thing. I know a lot of people, because Yavapai College has been so successful at soccer program. I mean, I think it's classified as the most successful soccer program in the United States. That I don't know for a junior college or for across the board. But what would you say is the key to that success? Is there a secret, or is there some kind of a thing that you would attribute to the success of the program?
Well, attention to detail, leaving no stone unturned, and leaving no stone unturned when you're recruiting, attention to detail when you're coaching, and leaving nothing to chance. And again, not being stubborn as well as a coach. A lot of players come from different backgrounds and different experiences, and I welcome them to share their experiences and their backgrounds. If they have suggestions, I want to hear it. Now, 4 out of 5 times they're going to do it my way, but hey, that 1 out of 5 times, hey, that's not a bad idea. We'll make that adjustments from time to time. But again, attention to detail and quite simply hard work. Not only hard work by the coaching staff, but hard work by the players. And really, there's no magical formula to success, really, other than hard work.
And is that also, would you also attribute that to teamwork too? I know in their tendency, I was a big basketball player when I was younger. Now I'm way too short, but when the height started to matter. But there was never. I was on a team once where our head coach had told us that this is a team. There's not going to be one person who has the ball the entire time and stuff. This is a very much of a team effort.
Well, your coach had to deal with emotional management. When you coach men's soccer, you got to deal with ego management, and it's very important to get that cooperation and to succeed as a unit. And our system of play and style of play doesn't focus in on one player. Everybody has a major role that they have to address and so forth. So again, we become more of a dangerous team when we can score from different areas of the field by different individuals as opposed to relying on 1 or 2 players.
Great. Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, that is, this is, I don't know, this is like, because that's the thing, there, a lot of people, even, are like, well, how does Yavapai College win so much? How are they so good and everything? And it's like,
well,
is that a little key?
We don't roll out the ball, as coaches, and the players just don't go through the motions. Again, all parties work very hard. I mean, that's the bottom line. So.
Oh, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that so much.